Hi there. Today in our lesson we will learn how to uh, assemble the future tense in Spanish, right? There are in Spanish two ways of building sentences in future tense. One is the typical way in Spanish where every verb has its own conjugation into present tense, right? And in Spanish it's complicated if you compare it with English, because every pronoun has for each verb one different conjugation. So it will be easier if we study the more simple form of future tense in Spanish, that is similar to the way it is in English, right? In English there is an auxiliary verb that is to will, right? So when we want to say the future in English, we say I will go, right? So we say the subject I, then we say the auxiliary verb will, and then the verb in infinitive, right? In this case, go or eat or whatever, right? I will eat, I will go, I will travel, okay? So we will use a form of future that is very similar or the same as the future in English, okay? And instead of using, as in English we use the verb to will as the auxiliary verb, in Spanish we would use the verb ir. Ir is the verb to go, okay? So ir means to go, but it's also an auxiliary verb for forming the future tense. So which is a structure for building a future tense sentence? It will be I, right, the subject, plus the verb ir, or to go, conjugated for the subject, right, and in present tense. Then we'll go a means to. And finally the verb in infinitive, right, the verb you choose, whether verb to go if you want to say I will go, or the verb to eat if you say I will eat, right? So we have to begin by learning how to conjugate the verb ir, which will be our auxiliary verb, into the present tense, okay? Because we will need to say the verb ir in present tense, and then a, and then the verb in infinitive. So let's begin. Verb ir, or to go, in present tense. Yo voy. Tú vas. Él va, or ella va. Nosotros vamos. Vosotros vais. Ustedes van. Ellos van. Let me repeat again. Vosotros and ustedes are synonyms, only that vosotros vais is how you speak in Spain. Ustedes van is how you speak in Latin America, and both ways are correct, academically correct, only that in one part of the world they use one way, in the other part of the world they use the other way, okay? So these two are synonyms. This means you plural. However, ustedes conjugates like ellos, you see? Ellos van, ustedes van. The conjugation between ustedes and ellos is always the same. Okay, so this means I go, you go, he goes or she goes. We go, you go, they go. Okay? So this would be the conjugation of verb ir in present tense. So if we want to say, for example, I will eat, right? I will eat. We will say, yo, the subject, right? Voy a comer, right? a comer. You see? So first would go the subject, later verb ir conjugated in present tense for the subject, right? So for yo it's voy. Later comes a, that means to. And then comes the verb in infinitive. Comer means to eat in infinitive, okay? All the verbs in infinitive, remember, we have three groups of verbs. Those that end in ar, those that end in er, and those that end in ir. So comer belongs to the group of verbs that end in er. Okay? So this same structure needs to be followed for all the in all the sentences that are in future tense, following of course this form, right? The form using the auxiliary verb ir. So in our next lesson we will see some more examples using the verb ir, right? So examples of future tense in Spanish.